Hi everybody, welcome into the Wolfman Garden channel. Do you want to grow tomatoes but you have no space or very poor soil? Then I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to put them in pots or containers, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Now, there's nothing to say that you can't grow an awesome tomato plant if you don't have the right soil or you don't have the room for it. You can always look at what we got here. This one pot, 18 inches in diameter, and at least 18 inches deep. Just choose the right container. Now these tomato plants are going to need at least this 18 inches diameter and 18 inches of depth, and that's going to give it a good vibrant root system. So choose the right container. And the next thing you want to do is you want to choose the right variety. Now this is very important because if you choose the wrong variety, it doesn't matter what you do or what container you have, it's not going to grow in that container. So what do we mean by the right variety? Let's just say some varieties are more suitable to grow in containers than others are. And the variety I'm talking about is either determinate or a bush variety. You can go to my channel. I'm going to put a link right up here. This is going to tell you the difference between determinate and indeterminate. I don't want to go through all the explanation of it right now because it'll take way too long, and this video is already going to take long enough. So this is about potting up our tomato plants and putting them in a pot where we can harvest them all year round. Like a cherry tomato or a patio tomato is a really good tomato that you can grow inside your container. Let me give you 6 varieties here that you can grow. These are just some of the most popular ones. You got the Early Wonder, the Bush Early Girl, Tangerine, Patio Tomatoes, Celebrity, Better Bush, and this one right here is one of my favorites, the Manitoba. Now, if you'll notice, I let this one grow a little bit big in this small pot, but I'm gonna show you right here. I'll show you how we done. If you haven't seen my other video on how we done it in the garden, it's the same thing. We're gonna take and we're gonna bury this whole section down in here. We'll take all these stems off and then let it grow from here. And then from here all the way down, this whole pot will be nothing but roots. And that's all we'll need. All right, now what you want to do, you want to prep your container. And what are we going to do and how are we going to prep the container? What you want to use is you want to use a high quality potting mix. It doesn't matter what brand or what size, just as long as it's a good quality. You can use organic, anything you want to, but as long as it's a high quality soil mixture, I like to add a little bit of vermiculite and a little bit of perlite to it just to give it a little bit more texture. The vermiculite will help hold some of the moisture in, because one of the worst things about a potted plant is it's going to lose moisture easily. When we prep our container, not only are we going to add the right soil mixture to it, we want to add some of this here too, some of this 555. And if you don't know what that is, I've got plenty of videos on that. 555 is just 5% nitrogen, 5% phosphorus, and 5% potassium. So we're just going to use a little bit of this. We're going to mix in with this soil. We're going to add 2 tablespoons. I think it's a tablespoon. Yeah, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of this 555. And this is a slow release fertilizer. And what I mean by slow release fertilizer is it's going to take time to break down. So this plant's not going to be able to use it right off. As the soil breaks down and those microbes in the soil break that down, then the plant will be able to use it over time. So it slowly feeds your plant over a period of 6 to 8 months throughout the season. And doing it that way, we won't have to actually liquid fertilize this as much. We'll add 2 tablespoons of slow release fertilizer, 2 tablespoons, and all you're going to do now is you're just going to mix this up. Just kind of mix it in nice and easy. That's all we need. That's all we need of that. So now we're going to move this camera around a little bit so I can actually show you how we're going to plant this tomato plant. Now we're just going to take Now we haven't filled this all the way up with soil yet because we're going to plant this down a little bit deeper here, and then we'll add soil to it a little bit later. So dig a hole down here in the center, just like so. We're going to take our potted plant and we're going to pinch off these bottom stems. And all you do on this here is you can either take and snip this off or just pinch it off. And like I said, we are going to bury this thing a pretty good ways down. Now then, look at that. We got all of that area right there. Now then, this right here is biodegradable, but I want to go ahead and I'm going to peel it off. And you can see right here, this has got some really good roots already growing in this thing. We're just going to bury this down here deep, like so. We got her planted in there. Now, we're just going to take some of the soil here. Just like that. Now then, we're not going to pack it down too tight, but we're going to pack it down just enough to get a little bit of air. And now then, we're going to water it. Now we're going to go over a few more things that will help keep this thing alive and be able to harvest this thing for several months. We've got our tomato plant planted, and we put in our slow release fertilizer. Now then, the only other thing you want to do is you want to think about, as this plant grows, you want to give it some support, because this plant's going to grow to be, 2 to 4 feet tall. But this determinate plant that I planted today, the Manitoba, it's going to grow, and if we let it grow, it can grow about maybe 4 foot. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this pot next to an area where we can kind of give it some support. And you can give it some support by a trellis, some type of stake, a wooden stake you can push in there with it and just help tie it up to help support the tomato plant. Now, when we water this, we want to keep the soil moist, but we don't want to keep it waterlogged. If you keep it waterlogged, you're going to flood the roots out and it's going to stress the plant out. And when we do the watering, we don't want to take and spray a water hose over the top of it. You don't want to overhead water. Like I've said in many of my videos, in the garden out there, we do a drip irrigation system. That way we can water directly at the base of the plant. And we're going to do this potted plant the same way. When you do your overhead watering and that soil splashes up onto the leaves, that's where you get a chance to have some type of disease or something that can get into the plant and kill it. So it's better off just to keep watering at the base of the plant and take the risk of getting a soil bacteria or some type of bacteria from the soil onto your plant. Now, remember, these containers will dry out quickly, but this one here is a perfect size. We can put this on our porch. You can put it on a patio, you put it on a deck, put it on a balcony, anywhere that you're going to get 6 to 8 hours of sunlight, because this potted plant, this tomato, is going to need about 6 to 8 hours of sunlight in order to thrive. And the main thing you want to do is the maintenance. Last thing is maintenance on these things. You want to keep the leaves, whenever they start growing over, and if they start touching the soil, you want to trim those bottom leaves off. You can trim all the leaves off underneath any of the fruit. Now, if you have fruit growing, you don't want to trim any of the leaves above it, or I wouldn't recommend trimming any of the leaves above it. But always keep the bottom leaves, keep them off the soil. And when you trim the bottom of the leaves and you can expose the stem, it keeps airflow going underneath that plant and that airflow will help keep some of the bacteria away from your plant as well. So keep a close eye on your plant, look for any pest, any disease, and if you do, go ahead and take care of it right then. We did put a slow release fertilizer in there, but I still recommend some type of water soluble fertilizer, something like a 222 or something like that, a balanced fertilizer. about every 2 weeks, feed that plant. It's going to get some of the nutrients from that slow release fertilizer, but like I said, that slow release fertilizer is there to feed it over the next 4 to 6 months. So every 2 weeks, I would recommend doing a water soluble, some type of fertilizer, and get ready for a great harvest and enjoy those tomatoes that you get on that one little pot. That's all there is to planting a tomato plant in a potted plant. So, like, comment, share this video, think about subscribing to the channel, hit that bell notification, and like always, keep it growing.